Hi guys. So we can start already. Hi everyone. Welcome to the extracurricular activities talk of Camp 2022's online study abroad conference titled Now Boarding College. Special thanks to our sponsors, the Princeton Review Philippines, AUG Student Services, LIMS Review Center, Study International, AIM Review Philippines, International College of Liberal Arts at Yamanashi Gakuin University, Syracuse University, and Queen's University, and our media partner, Manila Bulletin.
This is the Manila Bulletin, traversing time and truth since 1900, the newspaper with a century-long legacy of standing witness to the country's history and development. The Manila Bulletin's strong commitment to delivering news and information to the Filipino nation is a testament to its role in nation building and empowering the Filipino people. The Manila Bulletin tells timely stories and timeless truths. And this is its story. At the beginning of the 20th century, at the heart of the sprawling New American Center in Southeast Asia, two Americans, Carson C. Taylor and H.G. Farvis, organized a shipping and commercial publication and called it the Daily Bulletin. It was renamed as the Manila Daily Bulletin in 1906. In 1957, the Manila Daily Bulletin became a Filipino-owned publication after it was acquired by Menzi and Company. Its publisher, Hans Menzi, laid the foundations of the broadsheet as the exponent of Philippine progress. In 1961, philanthropist and business tycoon Dr. Emilio T. Yap was elected director and vice chairman. Don Emilio was named chairman of the board in 1982. Under his leadership, the Manila Bulletin was ushered in a new era of journalism to become the nation's leading newspaper by investing in a computerized editorial system, first in Asia, and started publishing its full-color issue. Today, the Manila Bulletin is headed and managed by Chairman Basilio Yap and Dr. Emilio C. Yap III. The Manila Bulletin continues to chronicle the Philippines' current events and milestones. During the Japanese occupation in 1942, the Manila Daily Bulletin was forced to stop its operations, and in 1945, the Carriedo offices were reduced to rubble during the brutal Battle of Manila. When the late President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, the Manila Daily Bulletin ceased its operations once again, but after 2 months, it reopened and was renamed the Bulletin Today. In 1977, Bulletin Today upgraded its printing facilities, moved into its own and current location in Morales Street in Intramuros, and diversified its reach through the Philippine Panorama, its Sunday magazine, and Tempo and Balita, its tabloid publications. As readers are in search for more diversified and specialized content, the Manila Bulletin launched several magazines and digests, such as Agriculture, Animal Scene, and Going Places. It also acquired local and vernacular favorites, such as Liwayway, Hiligaynon, Bisaya, and Banawa. The Manila Bulletin transformed itself into a multi-platform media provider and innovated the newspaper reading experience by integrating special executions in its publications, including a 3D edition, NFC, QR codes, pop-ups, false covers, and belly bands. The Manila Bulletin also opened digital platforms such as a website, app, and e-paper. Its website is one of the most visited and trusted Philippine news websites in the country. Its Facebook and Twitter accounts and YouTube channel are one of the most accessed in social media, engaging the young generation of news and information consumers. Today, the Manila Bulletin strives to make the nation be fully informed, at the same time uplifting the Filipino spirit through There's Good News Here. This is the Manila Bulletin, and the Manila Bulletin will continue to inform, inspire, empower, telling timely stories and timeless truths through this century and beyond.
So for this talk, we have Brittany Yukimtiao, Nick Nang, and Amanda D here today to talk about extracurriculars they have participated in high school and how they package these for the college application process. Our first panelist is Brittany Yukimtiao, a rising junior at the University of California, Irvine, double majoring in biological sciences and software engineering, and is also on the pre-med track. In her free time, Britt enjoys binging K-dramas and eating homemade ice cream. Next, we have Amanda D., an incoming sophomore at Claremont McKenna College, still discovering what she wants to major in. She definitely recommends going to college in SoCal. This summer, she is an intern at Kaya Founders, a venture enabler and early stage investment firm where she's building a tech startup in the B2B space. Amanda wishes she knew about camp when she was applying to college, so she's delighted to be of any help to all our attendees and mentees. Last but not the least, Nick Nang, a recent graduate of the British School Manila, Philippines, who will be going to study chemistry in London, United Kingdom. Nick has been involved in a variety of extracurriculars over the past 4 years, mainly MUN, chemistry, community service, and math. Outside of this, Nick also enjoys baking, playing chess, tennis, and is thrilled to be working again in a chemical lab post-pandemic. Thank you so much to our speakers for taking the time and effort to help Filipinos fulfill their study abroad dreams. So our panelists will be speaking in the following order all throughout the talk: Britt, Nick, and Amanda. And before we begin, please take note of some house rules for today's talk. Panelists will first answer preset questions for 20 to 30 minutes. A 30-minute interactive Q&A will follow, and you may direct questions to some or all panelists. Please type your questions on the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen, and the moderator will select which questions the speakers will entertain based on their relevance to the topic. And feel free to take pictures and share your camp conference experience through following and tagging us on our social media platforms. So you guys can turn on your cameras now. Okay. So for the first question, so it's Britt, Nick, and Amanda. So what extracurriculars were you most involved in during high school?
For me, so I was on the student council as a treasurer. So I mainly raised money for the school and facilitated the funding for other committees. But I also had other duties which um I wasn't initially like aware about, but I was also the fair finance head. So I also had to manage the money for the school scholarship foundation. And since I also had my own committee, I had to like facilitate meetings, host meetings like bi-weekly, and teach them how to make merchandise and how to contact sponsors. And I was also supposed to be the EDSOR finance head. So, but it got canceled because of the volcano in Tagaytay. And then I was also on the school newspaper. So I wrote about current events and I cross-checked the other articles for grammatical mistakes because I was in both copywriting and features. So that helped me maintain my grammar and writing skills as well as keep me in touch with the current events. And I was also on club and intramural volleyball for 5 years.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick, and firstly, I've been involved in a lot of MUN activities. So for those who don't know what MUN is, it stands for Model United Nations. So what do I do in MUN? So firstly, I've been in my school's Model United Nations Club, where I was a member from 7th grade up until the start of 11th grade. And then from 11th to 12th grade, I was the president itself in our club. So I was the secretary general. We would do a lot of debates, fun stuff in our activity. We would also partner with other schools in order to deliver joint training sessions towards our students. Aside from my experience as our school's Model United Nations Secretary General, I was also heading a lot of conferences abroad. So I was overseeing debate and committee sessions from conferences in Beijing and Singapore, and also conferences locally. And in my duties, I would monitor how the committee session worked. I'm and seeing how delegates debate as I was basically overseeing everything, as well as writing research reports to aid in delegates' knowledge on the current issues. So for chemistry, basically for chem, I founded our school's chemistry club, and we would do a lot of fun activities there. And we would also teach students concepts that are a bit advanced for their age, a bit like further above their age. And we would also do fun practicals as well. I was also working with an Ateneo professor last year on a survey project related to masks and chemistry behind it. And this year I was able to go back into the lab as an intern on as a research and development intern for Universal Robina Corporation. And for math, I joined some competitions. I was part of our school's math club. For service, I was heading a few organizations in my school. Had one on my own, which baked goods for frontliners over the pandemic, and we donated to a bit 20 plus hospitals, and we have 40 members in the organization as well. So yeah, that's mainly what I've been involved in over the past 4 years.
Hi guys, I'm Amanda, and I went to BSM for high school. I graduated in 2020, and my biggest extracurriculars were 1 Million Lights, which is a service learning committee. I served as a volunteer for the first 2 years and became the president of our BSM chapter for the latter half of my high school. And then I was also involved in TEDx British School in Manila. I was a marketing manager at first, and then the following year I became president, and I was also involved in BSM's tennis squad.
Okay, thank you for your answers. Second question is, how did you make your EC stand out among other applicants? Do you think this is crucial for a successful application?
So for me, my extracurriculars weren't anything out of the extraordinary. So when I was writing my essays, I tried to frame it in a way that would make it so that the admissions officer would see how unique it was from my perspective and how my extracurriculars helped me grow as a person.
Yeah, so for me, I think that making your EC stand out it's mostly about the passion itself and why you want to do them, as well as potentially getting some extent a bit of recognition. So could be at the school level or the local level, national level or international if you're lucky. But don't be fixated on the recognition. Be fixated as to why you really want to do those extracurricular activities, and that will really make you capitalize on them. So basically, again, if you have a lot of passion, you'll enjoy taking risks and doing something larger in your field day after day. So if you're applying to colleges with a bunch of other people, again, I think it's really important for your extracurriculars to stand out. And if your EC is niche, for example, you play like lacrosse, not many people play that sport. Yeah, you can show your passion, and then you already stand out itself because the activity you already do stands out. But if the activity that you do is relatively common, say MUN or community service, then if you want to stand out, it's just a touch bit more effort. So try to do something on the national or international level if you want to stand out on the best. So maybe head some conferences abroad, maybe start off being a delegate in some of them so you know how these conferences work, and slowly work your way up the ladder. So it's very important to also stand out in your ECs when it comes to your essays and tie them to who you are as a person. and really uncover why you want to do them and why that activity specifically. So for example, in MUN, the main reason why I wanted to do it is not only because I'm passionate about solving global issues, but mostly because I am intrigued with the jargon and the format that it uses. It's fun and memorable, and it's also unique at the same time.
For me, I think what stood out in my ECs was my leadership. Oh, for tennis squad, I was captain of the team. So leadership really stood out in my application. I didn't have the best grades and testing scores, but ECs and the leadership demonstrated across them, I think really edged me out. Like Nick said, it shows like if you're really passionate about it, it really shows. And I think as having a leadership position, you get to contribute a lot and oversee the big picture. And getting recognition is also really important. So with all of my extracurriculars at BSM, I had a few recognitions from school of like contributing to the wider life of society. Yeah.
Okay, so for our third question, in your view, is it better to be a well-rounded student, like with multiple extracurriculars across different interests or topics, or be a pointy student, like extracurriculars all related in a certain interest or topic?
Okay, so for me, after doing my research, I would say that I feel like being a pointy student is better if you really, really know what you want to do and you're super passionate about the things that like you're planning to do. But then like for me, I wasn't like that sure while I was in high school. I just knew that I wanted to go into med, but I wasn't like sure like what specialty I wanted. I wasn't even 100% sure that I could finish it. So at the same time, I think that there's no problem being a well-rounded student because you get to explore a lot and you get to see like for example, since I was a STEM student, I had some extracurriculars which were related to tech and business. Like I was part of Youth Hack Manila and I also joined WeTech for a short time. So I was able to expose myself the things that I wouldn't have if I only focused on STEM, like on medical extracurriculars. So at the same time, I feel like you shouldn't sacrifice the things that you like just to be a pointy student to like super stand out. Because although it's good, like if you're planning to go into med, for example, and you have a bunch of research publications, but then if you have to sacrifice your time like swimming, for example, and you really like swimming, I don't think it's worth it because you should still do extracurriculars that you like instead of just doing it all to get into the college. Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think you have to have a mix of both. So be pretty good or all right in a bunch of activities. So maybe try out a lot and at least know how they work, but be really passionate. And I mean, really passionate at one or two things. And I think that's the balance you need.
So I don't think it's the vastness or like the narrowness that really matters in your EC, but again, communicating your contribution and passion for whatever EC you're involved in through your application. And with regards to like the technical aspect of getting into college abroad, I think whether you're a well-rounded or pointy student also depends on the country and the college or university that you're choosing to apply to, because colleges and universities, they have like a profile of what student they want. And in the bigger picture of like which country, I think there's truth when they say that for UK, they generally expect you to stick with your course for the next 3 years, and very rarely do people switch courses. And then for the US, they do like people who are focused, but they also understand that as young adults, it's very possible that you shift your courses. So for the US, typically, they don't require you to declare your major till the latter end of your second year. So I think it's also like depends on which country you're more bagay to, and the college or university in specific as well.
Okay, so for our fourth question, what tips can you provide for filling out the EC section in the Common App and UC app, given the stringent character limits?
So for me, I treated it like how I would write a resume because they were like the character limit was really small. So I focused on action words, on my impact, and I thought of it in a way that if I could quantify all the effort that I put into like a couple words, so like how many people I helped, how many hours I spent on it, stuff like that.
I wholeheartedly agree with Britt. I think you should focus on stating the impact you've made, quantify it. So colleges also know how much the extent of your impact as well. And don't use your space to say what the organization you're part of is about, because college admissions officers have seen loads of extracurricular activities, so it's highly likely that they already know the gist of what you're doing. So yeah, just like what Britt said, quantify your impact, state your impact, and treat it like a resume.
You're on mute, Amanda.
Oops, sorry. Thank you so much. I just have to echo what Britt and Nick advised. I also treated it like a resume almost. And quantifying is, I feel, one of the best ways to communicate your contribution.
Thank you for that. So next question. Did you use your extracurricular experiences when writing essays and personal statements? If so, how do you portray them in a way that is unique to you?
So for me, I remember for my Common App essay, I related my time like as a STEM student to like being an egg, and that was like the core of my whole application. So I tried my best to tie everything I did all together, even though my extracurriculars weren't necessarily related to medicine, and I tried my best to frame it in a way that would be like different.
So yes, I have used my extracurricular experiences when writing essays and personal statements. So in my Common App, I mainly talked about my personal delays as a child and also my very submissive attitude in the past. And I also talked about in a way how the problems were solved in the end and how we managed to turn that around with leadership based on leadership positions inside and outside of school and on other things. I usually incorporate my extracurriculars to my essays from time to time. And regarding the UK personal statement as well, you should put your extracurricular experiences as a section in your statement. You won't, and it's really important that you write it well in your statement because you don't have any other spaces to say, oh, I've done this, these stuff, like what you would put in the Common App. Because in UK, all you're submitting is one essay, and so you have to include it well. So the tone of my essays when I incorporate my extracurriculars varies a bit. Some essays, I would write it more like I'm applying for a job, so more straightforward, more formal. And others, I would write more creatively. And if I write creatively, though, it's more about describing a certain scenario. So especially for MUN, I would talk about my experience in the committee room. Or if it's about chemistry, it's about my learning experiences when I write a research paper. And in your essays, it's also helpful to refer a club or opportunity or a professor that you would want to work with in your chosen university and relate it to your past extracurricular experiences and tie it to what they do.
Yes, I used my extracurricular experiences when writing my Common App and other essays, as well as my personal statement for UCAS. For my main Common App, I talked a lot about my my extracurriculars, and I quantified it because I applied for like an econ finance track. So it was really about numbers. And I just tried to portray that side of me. And for the personal statement, like I mentioned earlier about the UK and US applications, for the personal statement, um, uh, thank you to Q for pointing it out. UK only really looks at ECAs that are related to your intended major. So again, based on the country and the college or university that you're applying to, they look at specific aspects, and if you resonate with their student profile, that would help you a lot.
Okay, so for the next question, Nick kind of touched on this already. So are awards from contests really important?
For me, it would be a yes and a no. I feel like if it's a super, super like acclaimed contest, like for example, like if you got like first place in USUMO or ISEF, like yes, you have to put that, like every MIT's gonna get you, like it's really good in your application. But then if it's like a really, really small contest, I feel like if you have other extracurriculars that could showcase your leadership skills, it would be better to put that instead. So like for example in the Philippines, like the Palanca Awards, I feel like if you placed there, since it's a nationally acclaimed like writing competition thing, then it would be like it would have an impact on your application.
So are awards from contests really important? I agree with Britt. If it's something pretty substantial, yeah, it's important. It will really help you a lot. However, they're not as important as you would think. I think there are a lot of other factors that are more important than awards. So if you don't have much awards, it won't take away anything from your application. Having awards will help you, but it will only help you. It's not going to take away anything from your application. Everything honestly rests on your essay and the way you convey your experiences. I think that's the more important part rather than awards.
Again, I just have to echo what Britt and Nick are saying. So awards are important, I would say, but not the end of the world. It's a nice section to like highlight your strengths and other things that you mentioned in your EC section, or maybe bring up something else. I remember in high school, I was really worried because I had just moved to BSM for the last 4 years of high school, and I didn't really have the opportunity to get like awards from BSM, other than the contribution to the wider life of school. And I was really worried because like I had one, does that matter? But I turned out fine. And again, there are many, like Nick said, there are many other portions of the application that are more important and that you can really put your application on.
So our next question, do you have any resources, websites, apps to help fund extracurricular activities, internships, and networks?
For me, I just asked around since most of my extracurriculars were in school. So like they would like talk about it in like school assemblies and stuff, and that's how I knew about it. But then for my extracurriculars outside school, it was like either I knew someone who was already in the org and they were inviting me, or I just saw it on Instagram and then I just applied.
So I suggest you go deeper into your current extracurriculars rather than finding more extracurriculars that you want to do. If you already have a good number of extracurriculars, so prioritize depth over breadth. Always focus on creating an impact on the extracurriculars that you do, whether this is in school or not in school. Focus on realistic goals. Start smaller, such as gaining a leadership position in your school's activity, which could be achieved if you focus on creating an impact as a member. So you don't need to have a leadership position if you want to create an impact on your own. It lies on your vision and what you think is right. Um, After this, maybe do something with your school's club that targets at a local scale or city scale, or find initiatives such as like publishing research with working with professors, or working with companies where you are doing meaningful tasks and which you will learn a lot from regarding your field. And getting recognition is going to be very good, especially if it's in a national or international scale, but it is not easy. But again, you don't really need these recognition or awards to say that you've done a great job with your extracurriculars. As long as you focus on impact, and as long as you've known that you achieved substantial impact with what you have and what you did, then that's very good.
I personally also mostly joined extracurriculars in school. There were a few hobbies that turned into extracurriculars because of like joining a related org that I heard about through sometimes my parents or different contests. Yeah.
So our next question, do I still have a chance in applying to schools abroad, even if I do not have any extracurricular activities?
Yes, because extracurriculars are they are a part of the application that does boost like your competitiveness, but it's not the only aspect of the application. And as long as you frame yourself well in your essays, then you'll be able to get in schools abroad, even if you don't have any extracurriculars.
Yes, of course, you will be able to apply to schools abroad and you will get into a lot, even if you don't have any extracurricular activities. It just helps, especially in US schools, because admissions officers want to get to know you further and they want to see what you like doing. And in the UK, or even in parts of Asia, they want to know what you've done in your field as well, aside from going to the classroom every day and learning from your teacher. So that is what extracurricular activities are for. But again, if you don't have them, there are still many, many universities that will take you across the world, like the vast majority, as they will focus on your grades and probably your reference letters as well, and also the application you write. So yeah, you're all good either way.
So yes, to cut your worries, you do have a chance in applying to schools abroad and getting in, even if you do not have extracurriculars. Just to add on what Britt and Nick said, and I've been touching upon this a lot, really, it's really like a matter of strategy, finding the country and university that aligns with you and your strengths. I think I've been focusing on this a lot because my brother actually told me recently as well that there's a common data set which I wasn't aware of when I was applying to college and high school, but it's public and you can kind of see what matters in your application based on the university. This is for US universities. I'm not sure with the rest.
Yeah, just to add to what Amanda said, also included in the common data set is like the average SAT scores, all the like qualitative and quantitative stuff, even the school rankings that they usually accept and all that. Okay, so last question for our preset questions. What advice would you give to high school students who don't know what extracurriculars they're passionate about or would be good at?
I would say like try everything. I don't think that you necessarily have to be extremely passionate about the things that you join because you can end up growing to love something once you started it. So as long as you start, then you'll be able to explore what you would say you like and dislike.
So yeah, it's never too late to find something new, and there's so many things you could do, and there will always be something that you will be interested in. So if you are entering grade 9 or 10, if you're 11 or 12, but you don't really know what you like, or you haven't joined any extracurricular activities, The first thing I would do is at the start of the school year, join as many clubs as you can in your school, like as many after school activities as you can for the first few weeks, and then eventually stick to a few and you can drop the rest after the first few weeks. Because these clubs that really interest you are the ones you would keep as the small number and build your interest further. Get internships, apply to summer camps early. I would say 5 to 6 months is the best. Um, yes, I know people like their summers to be free a lot, and I know the feeling of joining these and exploring the professional world, maybe a change of lifestyle. But again, you will not believe how much of an eye opener this is, and you will really, really enjoy your experiences. If you are entering grade 11 or 12 and you already have some stuff at least, um, just stick to what you already have and develop your experiences that on what you already have. The chances are this late in high school of grade 11 and 12, the activities you are doing are probably the ones you are most passionate in. So again, like my advice for grade 9 and 10, the same thing. Continue to explore in depth, and I think you should also think about how to frame what you do in your essays. And I think now's the great time to really think about packaging yourself and your extracurricular activities the best way you can. So, and again, also for all grade 9, 10, 11, 12, everyone who's in the call, start initiatives with your hobbies or join competitions. So if you're really good at, like, let's say chess, join competitions or teach chess lessons. If you're not the best at it like me, like I like chess, but I'm nowhere near good. Like I'm just okay. You can start a chess club at your school, or you can host chess competitions or fundraisers. So at least someone is benefiting from what you do.
So if you don't like, again, what Britt and Nick said, if you don't have the time constraint, try a bunch of things. I think I actually did what Nick said. I joined a bunch of ECs at the start of the year. Of course, those that piqued my interest. And I figured out which ones I could really make a contribution in, or something that I was really passionate about, and stuck with those. So there's no harm to test the waters, and so start with the ones offered at school or community, or something that even your friends are part of that you find interesting. And from there, you can possibly figure out what works for you or like what doesn't, and then process of elimination from there.
So that wraps up all our preset questions. So thank you to Britt, Amanda, Nick for all your answers. We'll now be moving on to our question answer portion. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to ask questions in the chat. So our first question, do you think it's important to take part in the student government in any way for applying to college abroad? Anyone can answer.
Oh, sorry.
You can go ahead.
For me, I think because joining student government helped open my eyes to a lot of things going on in school that I wasn't aware about. So, like, it helped me, like when I was applying abroad, because it made me realize like a bunch of things that I was taking for granted at my school. And it also gave me a lot of leadership opportunities. But then I think that if you could find leadership opportunities elsewhere, like it doesn't necessarily have to be in student government, then it would also be okay.
Okay, we can go to the next question. Is it necessary to join organizations out of school, or is being active in different school extracurricular activities enough? Maybe Amanda can answer this.
Okay, thank you, Fran. Thank you for the question. So like we've been talking, like what we've been mentioning this whole panel, it's not really the number or like vastness of organizations that you join. It's about really honing on the ones that you're really passionate about and can make contributions in. And the important thing is communicating that in your application. Because if you join a lot in and out of school, but can't communicate in your application, then that'd be a problem.
Targeted to Nick. Hi. Really interested in MUN opportunities. Was also recently accepted in IMUN Campus Ambassador Internship. Will that be a good start? Are there any other ways to volunteer or join MUN?
First of all, I'm really glad that there's someone here who also likes MUN. Your fellow MUNer here. So yeah, congrats on getting accepted to your IMUN Campus Ambassador Internship. Yeah, it's a good achievement. And it's a good start. And there are actually many other ways you could join and volunteer for MUN. So one thing that was so great about COVID when it came to MUN was actually that so many online MUN opportunities came up. A bunch of MUN related organizations came up. So first of all, MUN Impact is an organization that aims to tackle the SDGs through pledges and partnering with a lot of school or local organizations or MUN or United Nations orgs around the world. And you can also mentor or be a delegate in a lot of their programs where you can learn or teach people about MUN. You can choose to do both. And I think that's an org that really shined through the pandemic, and so many people are part of it around the world. And in addition, a lot of MUN conferences have chosen to go online, and a lot of MUN conferences have started because of the pandemic and have been advertising themselves on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, feel free to join those conferences. And I think, yeah, COVID really helped boost the number of MUN opportunities there are. Best of luck with your MUN journey. You're gonna do great.
Thank you. So for Britt, did you have any extracurriculars related to med because you're taking up pre-med right now?
So in high school, I was in STEM, so we had the investigative project. So that was like a given, like I couldn't like not do it. I had to do it. And then right now, I'm an LA for the general chemistry labs at UCI. So that's like a TA but undergrad and you don't get paid. And I'm also doing research there. Like I'm part of a research lab. It's just that I can't actively participate in it this quarter because I'm in the Philippines. So when I get back, I'll start in the fall.
So next question. How can one package their ECs to get that well-rounded image? Because I feel like there's a fine line between being all over the place and being well-rounded.
I think that if you want to package your extracurriculars to being well-rounded, convey that in your essays, and this is exactly where you should be pursuing your extracurriculars that you are passionate in, even though it may be in multiple fields. Because if you're passionate about something, you can write it well in your essay, and you will have many personal experiences relating to that extracurricular. And there is a fine line with being well-rounded and being all over the place. I've seen another question about, do you believe that there is such thing as too many extracurriculars? And there is, and that is being all over the place. And it is when you are not enjoying everything you're doing, you're spreading yourself too thin, and then you don't enjoy it, and at the same time, you don't have time for your academics anymore. So being well-rounded is about enjoying all your extracurriculars and seeking opportunities in them, but at the same time, you can focus on your mental well-being, your free time, and being able to balance your academic duties as well.
Thank you. So I think this is a really good question. What if you feel like your interests are silly and a relatively small scale, but you really enjoy doing them? Maybe Amanda wants to talk.
Yeah, sure. I would encourage you not to think that your interests are silly. And if they're small scale, that's okay. It's really about, again, conveying your contribution and passion towards it. And if there's not like an org centered around that, maybe you can start one and be the first one to make it on a larger scale.
Let's see. Does USA and Asia care about if your extracurriculars are aligned with your intended major?
I didn't apply to Asia, so if anyone else in the panel did, that would help. But then for the US, I know that they do look if your extracurriculars are aligned to your major, but then more on that, they focus on like the extracurriculars that you are passionate about, and they can see it like in the way that you write it. That's something that you can't really hide. So I think that you should just focus, like if you already have extracurriculars now and you think that they're not really aligned to your major, I think you should just mainly focus on trying to make an impact and connecting your leadership impact to your intended major.
I've applied to a couple of Asian universities. So it's like America about the fact that they will look at all your extracurricular activities, but they will categorize it, and because they will also ask for your intended major. So they will see if your ECs are also related to your major. So yeah, just it's exactly the same case for USA as well. So like just what Britt said.
Thank you. I guess to add for Asia, sometimes Asian universities are like kind of more centered into like the major you're gonna apply to. Because like they even go to the extent of having interviews about like let's say STEM questions. So yeah. So next question. What are your guys' personal support systems when feeling overwhelmed and unmotivated? I guess this is for extracurriculars. Maybe Britt can answer.
For me, I talk to my friends and then I sleep when I'm tired. And then I also talk to my family when I'm like super like burned out, and I like bother my brother because it gives me joy when he's playing his games and I make him lose. But then like that's it. I think that if you manage your time properly, you won't really get burned out or overwhelmed. So don't like join too many extracurriculars, just enough that you can balance your grades and your leisure time as well.
Okay, so this is for incoming seniors. I'm in 11th grade, turning 12th in a month, and I have not joined many extracurriculars nor experienced leadership capabilities. Are there any possible strategies to possibly help my application?
Again, 1 year is a lot of time, and it is 1 year until you go to college. So you still have a lot of time to do that, and I think you should do the same thing. See what's available in your school, explore your passions, even if they're hobbies or passions that may not really be related to your intended major. So try to do what you can, or seeing as you said you've not joined much extracurriculars, I'm assuming you've joined a bit. So try to sort of develop the ones that you have joined. And if there's any hobby that you really like doing that you might have done just as a hobby, yeah, try expand it. You never know where it will take you. And 1 year is a lot of time to do these things.
Amanda, do you want to add anything since you asked for the question?
Recapping the question. I've not tried much extracurriculars. Is there possible strategies? Not much. I just have to echo what Nick said.
Okay. Which is better for our apps, Model, UN, or Debate? I guess this is for Nick.
Either is good. Whatever one you like more. That's the best for you.
Do you have any recommendations, like organizations or any programs where we can apply to, knowing that we have limited opportunities as we are still in the pandemic?
I think you can start with extracurriculars at school. And like what Britt said, she saw a lot online and just reached out, see if there's an opening. I think that's where you can start.
Okay, so I'll just we have 10 minutes left. So maybe I'll get around 4 more questions. What is your advice for students who aren't able to join ECs from freshman to sophomore year due to the pandemic? So that's during the first 2 years of online class and due to family responsibilities.
I think if you talk about family, I think so. So we know that Philippine schools haven't reopened for quite the longest time relative to other countries. So colleges should be very understanding of this. And again, I think echoing what people said earlier, there are so many online opportunities out there, especially if you want to intern or schools clubs, and you can do so much being in being in your home chair or your home table. And yeah, and I think that family responsibilities is actually it's a substantial thing, especially during this time. And if you have these sort of responsibilities, it's great to mention them in your essay as well. That will be that'll be viewed very positively by admissions officers. But if you return to school, do what Amanda and Britt said. Join as many as you can. Join a lot of organizations and really see which ones you like the most.
How many extracurricular activities are considered a lot?
Technically, for the US, anything more than 10, because there are only 10 slots on the Common App. Yeah, but other than that, it's really about the time that you spend on it, and if you can like manage your time well. It's more about how you feel and how you are contributing to that EC rather than the number itself.
Thank you. So, any tips on how to start your own organization, especially when you don't have many connections? I think Britt can answer this since you have an up and coming org.
Oh, ask your friends, ask everyone, just bother everyone. That's what I do. Like I try to look for people who are also interested in the same things that I'm interested in. So like I got people from UCI who were in comp sci and software engineering to join my org. Like I just make boodle people. Yeah.
Thank you. So, next question. Hi, I was wondering about how well we can portray hobbies or activities we are passionate about if they are self-taught, like in art.
I think it's actually better that you self-taught yourself art. And I think with me, I've also self-taught myself how to bake. So it's also something I've portrayed in my essay. And I think it also develops a very good story and saying, and then again, it's really about in your essay saying what really made you want to self-teach yourself art. And so if you really unlock the reason as to why you really self-taught yourself art, like what is the real reason behind it? It can be as bizarre as possible, that's fine. Colleges will really see that you have a reason of doing what you're doing and that you are incredibly independent. And yeah, you're a great risk taker as well if you do that. You just unlock the real reason why you chose to self-teach yourself art and maybe say what you've done while self-teaching yourself.
Thank you. So we're actually nearing the end. So I'll just accommodate one last question. If I excelled more in a different extracurricular field, let's say physics, but want to take up a biology course, is it advisable to include it, or would it be disadvantageous to my chances of being selected?
Depends on the country actually. So if it's the US, you should always include whatever extracurricular you've got. And plus, physics and biology are related. They're both in the sciences. And anything you do, again, it will help you. So if you've done something good for physics or you've done a physics at EC, that's great. Put it on. It will help boost your application. If it's for the UK though, because you don't have spaces for extracurriculars, keep in mind the word count limit on your personal statement. If you feel that you can write, but with a 4,047 line limit for your UK personal statement and include everything you can about biology and what you've done in that field and your interest, then you do not need to add your physics thing. I feel that your physics extracurriculars may be best for your US apps. But again, if you have space for your UK personal statement, put it in.
So thank you, Britt, Amanda, and Nick for all those insights. And I'm pretty sure our audience learned a lot. So I know you guys still have questions, but unfortunately, we're nearing the end of our time together. So if you want to contact our speaker directly, they'll be sending their contact info in the chat. So please do that, Britt, Amanda, and Nick. And yeah. So thank you so much to our speakers for today, and we hope you learned something new. We have an event later at 6 about Australia, so you guys might want to check that out. So see you at our next event. Bye-bye.